Hello viewer, welcome to the session of Macro in MS Excel 2010. In this session we will see what is the objective of this session, what is loop in VBA, and after that we will see how to use for next loop and how to use do while loop. Objective of this session is, after this session you will learn what is loop, how to use for next loop and do while loop. Now I will explain you what is loop. So loop is the most powerful programming technique in VBA. A loop in Excel VBA empowers you to loop through a range of cells with only few lines of code. Loop is the technique for executing a code till it met certain criterion. Loop is the technique for doing repetitive tasks till the condition met. Now to see the demo of the loop, we will go to the Excel workbook, and from there we will move to the Visual Basic Editor, where we will write a code for next loop and for do while loop. Now go to the Excel workbook, and from here we will move to the Visual Basic Editor from developer menu, and from developer menu using Visual Basic tab we will go to the Visual Basic Editor. Now we are in Visual Basic Editor. Here we will write a code to demonstrate example for next loop and do while loop. So first we will see how to write a code for do while loop. Sub demo for do while. Here our objective is to see how do while loop works. So for that, what I am going to do here, first I will declare one variable named I as integer data type, and after that I'll assign a value to it, and then we will use that variable in our do while loop and perform a task of printing number 20 in column A, from cell A1 to cell A5. So we will see practically how to use the loop for that task. First, declare a variable. As you know, for declaring a variable you need to use dim. So dim, then variable name, in this case I, and then the data type as integer. Then assign a value to I, so I equals to 1. Now I will write do while loop. Do while I less than 6. So now you can see this is the criterion. You have to repeat the task till I values reaches to 5. Less than 6, that means the value reaches to 5. And then do while loop is always ended with loop, and the task which will be performing repetitively, it should be in do while and between do while and loop. So here we will perform the repetitive task printing 20 in cells. So for that, worksheet sheet 1 dot cells. As you know, in cells we will be using row index and column index. So in place of row index I'll be placing I and then the column 1 dot value equals to 20. Now this is the task. Printing 20 in cells is our repetitive task. As you can see, in place of row index I have entered the variable name I, as this is the number which is going to be incremented. So below that I will increment the value of I by 1. So I equals to I plus 1. So this is the code where the value of I is incremented by 1, meaning each time the task will perform, the I value will store the next value. Now we will run this macro and see how it works. Just go back to Excel workbook and just select macro and run it. Now you can see the value 20 is printed through A1 to A5. So this is how we can use do while loop in Excel VBA. And now you would have seen what is the importance of do while loop, that is the loop in Excel VBA. Now we will perform the same task with the help of for loop. For that, just go back to the Visual Basic Editor, and here we will write another subroutine where we will use for next loop. So for writing a for next loop code, start with subroutine sub demo for next loop, and here we will perform the same activity. Dim I as integer, and then here we will not assign a value here I, but we will assign the value to the variable directly in the for loop. So this is what the syntax for loop: for I equals to 1 to 5, and then next I. So the syntax for using for loop for next loop is first assign a value to the variable like this: for I equals to 1 to 5, that means it will run through 1 to 5, and then increment the value just using next and the variable name in this case. And now we will be writing the code for printing the value the same we did for do while loop. Now we will run the second macro for testing for next loop. Just go back to the Excel workbook, run macro demo for next loop, and you can see the same task has been performed now with for next loop. So this way we have seen how to use for loop and do while loop in Excel VBA, and now you have learned how to use for loop and next do while loop and what is the loop in Excel VBA. So in next session I'll be coming up with the more example and the different loops which is in Excel VBA we can use. Thank you, viewer.